In a small grocery store, a manager humiliates a young cashier over $1.38 till shortage as a quiet line cook watches. The cook steps forward and pays the difference out of an envelope meant for gas, a traffic ticket, and his son's cleats, risking money and time. The act shifts the store's mood and sparks modest changes that ripple through both of their lives, without solving everything but making room for hope. Just a quick note before we begin: hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. The lemons and bleach smell sits heavy by checkout 3. The light above the lane hums. The young woman at the register rolls a penny over her knuckle, then tucks it back. Her red vest gapes where a button is missing. The scanner beeps in a steady rhythm. People in line look at their phones and sigh. Her name tag had a dent where the L used to be. Her wrist has a rubber band and a faint ink line as if she wrote a time there and forgot. She keeps her head down. Her voice is flat and soft as she greets each person. "Hi, did you find everything okay?" The words come out like muscle memory. He held a thick paper envelope inside his hoodie. The middle-aged man with the grey cap waited with onions, milk, foil, and 2 loaves of bread in his basket. He was on a 15-minute break from the diner down the block. His hands smelled like onions and soap. There were burn marks on his forearms like pale commas. The manager arrived with a clipboard like a flag. He stepped next to the register and did not lower his voice. The green tie around his neck looked too tight. He tapped the screen and pursed his lip. "You're short $38, the manager said, loud enough to reach the gum racks. Heads turned. The young woman pressed her palms flat on the counter. She swallowed. "I counted twice," she said, voice thin. Her eyes flicked to the line, then to the light above her lane. The belt kept moving. A bag of rice pressed against a pack of strawberries as if the groceries were also holding their breath. "Twice isn't enough," the manager said. He pulled the drawer half open and fanned the bills. A few coins popped and rolled toward the end of the belt. "We can't afford sloppiness." He said it like a slogan. A woman in blue scrubs shifted her weight. A man in work boots rubbed his jaw. The young woman's face went pink and then pale, like a light turning. She tucked a stray curl back into her messy bun, but it sprang free. She stared at the gum rack. No one said anything. The peeps slowed and then stopped. "I have to write you up," the manager went on. "Store policy." He had that tone people use when they step on something they think is already dead. "Hey, ma'am," the cook said, stepping out of line. He was not sure what he would say until he was standing there. The words came anyway. "Can we not do this out loud? Just take it to the office. People mess up." The manager blinked. "Sir, this is a store issue. Please stay in line. My order can wait," the cook said. He pointed with his elbow back to his basket. But she shouldn't have to take a hit like that with a whole line staring at her. "If it's about 38, I can fix 38 so you can coach her later in private." The manager's mouth twitched. "We don't take outside money for shrink." He opened the envelope and fanned out 20s that smelled like fry oil. The bills were soft from being handled, corners rounded. On the front of the envelope someone had written, in blue pen, "Gas Ethan ticket." The cook pulled 2 20s and set them on the counter, not in the till. "Then call it a donation," he said. "Call it whatever you want. Just put the clipboard down." Someone in line cleared a throat. The woman in scrubs looked away and blinked hard. The young woman at the register did not move. The manager stared at the bills. He glanced at the faces around him. It was a small store. Everybody had a face that could come back tomorrow. He reached out and took the money. "I'll sort it," he said, and the last word came out like he had bitten it. He slid the clipboard under his arm and stepped back. "Carry on," he said, which sounded funny in a grocery store aisle. The beep of the scanner came back like a clock starting again. The young woman's hands moved on reflex, quick and careful. She bagged the heavy things first: rice, milk, cans. Her cheeks were still pink, but her eyes steadied. The light above the lane hummed of fate. The light above the lane hummed. A bag crinkled, and the sound felt normal. "Thank you," she said, but he just nodded and pushed his basket forward. He did not look at the manager. He did not make a speech. He placed his onions on the belt, and then the milk. "Paper, please," he said, because he always asked for paper, so the milk wouldn't sweat through and make a mess. The line moved again. People looked down at their phones, then back up, then down again. You could feel the air loosen. A kid somewhere in the store laughed at a display of bouncing oranges. The manager disappeared into the back like a shadow pulled off by a door. Back in the parking lot, he sat in his car and counted what was left. The envelope felt lighter, even though it had always only been paper and bills. He had set aside the cash to pay a ticket from a busted taillight, to put gas in the car, and to get his boy a pair of cleats he'd been promising. He did the math. The ticket would wait. The gas would stretch if he drove gentle. The cleats could sit in a tab in his phone a little longer. He put his forehead on the steering wheel for a second. The wheel smelled faintly like lemon wipes. He took a breath and turned the key. He pulled back into the alley behind the diner where prep cooks split crates of lettuce. He clocked in late and hung his cap on the hook, then put it back on because his hair looked odd without it. "Everything okay?" the owner asked, not unkind. "A line held me up," he said. It wasn't a lie. He went back to the flat top. He worked fast. The hiss and clatter steadied his heart. He plated pancakes in stacks of 3 and 4, slid eggs onto plates like quiet tricks, called out, "Order up," in a voice that sounded like it did every day. At the bottom of his phone screen, a text blinked from his ex about Saturday soccer. He typed back, "I'll sort it," and put the phone away. That night, when the young woman got off, she walked home past the pawn shop and the little park with the long slide. The air smelled like cut grass and car exhaust. She had a receipt in her pocket from the till recount. It said "balanced" at the bottom. Her stomach had been a small, tight knot since the clipboard. It loosened now, slow as a stuck zipper. She shared a one-bedroom with her little brother. She dropped her vest on the chair and set the receipt under a magnet on the freezer door. In one of the old magnets, a pizza place phone number had worn away. The living room light flickered for a second, and then held. She heated soup. Her brother asked if she could help with a word problem. She sat with him at the chip table and drew trains on scrap paper. She did not tell him about the manager or the clipboard or the $38. She told him how to figure out how long until 2 trains meet, even though trains never meet in their town. By Saturday, a small sign showed up by checkout 3, "We coach in private." It was printed on thick white paper and taped neatly under the light. The manager had put his initials in the corner like he needed proof for himself. Someone set a clean jar at the end of the belt with a sticky note that read "Breakage Fund." It wasn't big. It was the kind of jar sauce gets sold in. A few quarters winked at the bottom. A dollar bill leaned against the glass like a shy person at a party. A woman in blue scrubs came back with a gift card tucked in a folded receipt. She slid it to the young woman with a quick smile that said, "I saw." The young woman slid it under the till and said, "Thank you," and then paper or plastic. And at the diner, a couple regulars left an extra 5 on the table, the way people do when they don't know the exact shape of a hole but want to pour something into it. One of the servers told the cook she liked his cap, he said. "It hides a weird bump," and they laughed. Monday afternoon, the young woman walked past the diner on her break. The front window was fogged near the coffee machine. She paused. Inside, she could see the man at the grill sliding a line of pancakes into a tight row. She kept going because she was due back in 8 minutes. The envelope he'd opened in the store kept flashing in her mind, with the words on it in blue pen. She didn't know if the money had pulled from something he needed. She guessed it had. Later, after her shift, she returned. She carried a little fruit pie she had bought with the discount she got for being an employee. It was in a plastic clamshell. She stood by the register and waited until there wasn't a line of tickets hanging like tails by the grill. The bell on the door clinked whenever someone walked in or out. When the man finally looked up, she set the pie on the counter and said, "This is from a random person to a particular person." He looked at the pie and then at her face. He looked like he wanted to say he didn't need it. He looked like he wanted to say it was nothing. He ended up saying, "Thanks," because it was simple and true. At some point, they both smiled in the way people smile when a strange moment stretches out and then collapses into something normal. He put the pie under the counter and went back to the grill. She left because she did not have forever. It was a small thing that cost real money and a slice of pride. It changed a day. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the clipboard or the knot in a stomach or the line of bills in a soft envelope waiting for math. But it showed up in public, where the hum of lights and the beep of scanners flattened people into parts. It made a little room. The envelope got rewritten, "Gas, Ethan, ticket." The words stayed, but the lines between them shifted. He worked a double. He found a used pair of cleats from a coach who kept things in his trunk for times like this. He paid the ticket late and ate beans for 2 nights and still got up before dawn because ovens don't care about your math. She kept showing up to her lane. She learned to say, "One sec," when a spill needed attention. She kept the signs straight. She counted the till slow at first, then on muscle memory. When her brother asked out of nowhere at breakfast why trains have to meet, she said so they can pass something on. At opening the next morning, light hit the jar and made the quarters look warm. A receipt, folded small, leaned against the glass. The handwriting was careful and a little uneven. It said, "In case," and that was all. The store hummed awake. The bell on the door chimed. The red light at checkout 3 clicked on.